In a previous unit, you learned how to communicate clearly with the LLM through structure and iterative prompting. Better prompting will get you better responses, but better prompting is not enough. Even a well-crafted prompt can produce an answer that is wrong, biased, or misleading, and it may say so in fluent, confident language that makes the problem hard to notice. So, in this unit, we step back and ask two questions. First, what can go wrong when you use an LLM? And second, what habits should you build to manage those risks? These two questions are connected. Almost every good habit in the second half of this unit is a direct response to a pitfall in the first half. So, let's start with the pitfalls. It helps to group the pitfalls by where they come from. Some arise from how an LLM generates language. Some arise from how we, as humans, interact with it. And some arise from the wider context in which AI is used: your data, society, your institution, and the environment. We'll take each group in turn. Recall from Unit 1 that an LLM generates text by repeatedly predicting the most plausible next token. It is built to produce convincing continuations, not to guarantee truth. Several pitfalls follow directly from this. The first and most important is hallucination. An LLM can invent facts, numbers, names, citations, and even web links that look real but do not exist. If you ask for 5 papers on a topic, you may receive 5 plausible-looking references, some of which were never written. If you ask for a formula, you may get one that is subtly wrong. This is not an occasional bug you can prompt away. It follows from the basic way LLMs work. The lesson is simple. Treat the AI as your draft assistant, not as an authority. Closely related is overconfidence. An LLM produced this style of certainty just as easily as it produced the content. A confident tone is not evidence that the answer is correct. The model does not automatically know when a claim needs a citation, whether calculation should be double-checked, or when the honest answer is, "I am not sure." A third pitfall is generic output. Because the model gravitates toward high probability, average sounding language, fake prompts produce fake, forgettable writing. This matters most exactly where your own voice should come through. Personal statements, reflection essays, project proposals. If you let the model write these from a thin prompt, it can erase your specific experience and disciplinary perspective. Fourth, LLMs can fail at exact tasks. Arithmetic, counting, sorting, precise citation formatting, and current facts. This require exact execution, and a model that computes pattern is not the same as a calculator on an official source. Use the language model to explain and structure. Use the right tool when you need an exact answer. Fifth, an LLM may hide its assumption. If your context is incomplete, the model often fills the gap with plausible defaults rather than stopping to ask. Ask it to create a study plan, and it may quietly assume your exam date, your background, and how much time you have. A more responsible prompt asks it to state its assumption first, then produce something you can adjust. The next group has as much to do with us as with the model. The first is psychopathy, the tendency of model to agree with you, even when you are wrong. Chat models are tuned to be helpful and agreeable, and human feedback tends to reward answers that feel cooperative and satisfying. So if you say, my thesis is already strong, make it sound more impressive. The model is likely to flatter rather than challenge you. The fix is to actively invite disagreement. Ask it to assume there are serious weaknesses and to identify unclear claims, unsupported assumptions, and counter arguments. The second is over reliance, including emotional dependence. Because chat models are responsive and always available, some people fall into long, emotionally intense conversations. A model that keeps validating you can reinforce a distorted belief. An LLM does not have the real world context, the duty of care, or the professional judgment of a trusted person. So use AI for reflection, learning, and drafting, but seek human help when an issue involves your mental health, your safety, or crisis, or beliefs that feel frightening or hard to reality check. AI should not replace teachers, counselors, doctors, friends, or family. The third is de-skilling. If you let AI do the thinking, writing, and problem solving that you are supposed to be practicing, you may finish faster but learn less. The danger is that it is invisible. The work looks polished, but you become less able to explain, adapt, or reproduce in on your own. There's a useful idea here from learning science, desirable difficulty. Productive struggle is often where the learning actually happens, and AI can remove too much of it if you use it as a shortcut. The final group comes not from the model's language at all, but from the world it operates in. First, privacy. An AI tool is not just a local text box. What you submit may travel through cloud services, logs, and pipelines, and depending on the tool and its settings, it may be stored, reviewed, or used to improve future systems. So do not casually pass private or confidential information, NRIC or passport number, medical or financial details, unreleased research data, confidential workplace information. On simple rule, if you not post it publicly or email it to a stranger, think carefully before putting it into an AI tool. Second, bias. LLMs learn from enormous data sets that contain stereotypes and uneven representation, and they can reproduce those patterns. Be especially careful when you use AI for anything touching hiring, peer evaluation, sensitive social topics, or issues of gender, race, religion, nationality, disability, or class. You can even ask the model to review its own output for bias, stereotyping, and culturally insensitive phrasing. Third, academic integrity. This is not only about whether the output is correct, it's about what an assignment is designed to assess. If the point of the task is for you to write, reason, or solve, then having AI do that core work can defeat the assessment even if the answer is good. At NUS, you are responsible for checking what is allowed for each assignment, acknowledging AI use when required, and standing behind the quality and integrity of whatever you submit. A good rule of thumb, use AI in ways you can explain, defend, and acknowledge. And fourth, there's a real environmental and resource cost. Training and running large models consume electricity, cooling, and hardware. The implication is not never use AI, but use the right level of AI for the task. Don't reach for a large model, a repeated image generation, or long agentic process when a simpler tool or a little human effort would do. There's a lot of ways things can go wrong, but notice the pattern. Each pitfall points towards a habit. Hallucination tells you to verify. Sycophancy tells you to ask for critique. De-skilling tells you to stay the thinker. Hidden assumptions tell you to ask for clarifying questions. So the second half of this unit is simply the positive version of the first half. Habit 1. Verify before you trust. Verification is the baseline habit because the model is optimized for plausibility, not truth. Pause and check facts, dates, citations, calculations, code, and any policy, legal, medical, or financial claim, and especially anything that goes into credit work or your professional reports. For important things, check against an authoritative source, your course material, or calculation or test. And note, if a second AI agrees, that is another opinion, not proof. Habit 2. Use AI to criticize, not only to generate. Instead of write my essay, try critique my essay and ask what the weakest part of your argument is, what a skeptical examiner would say, which claim needs evidence and what's missing. Critic keeps your own work at the center and turns the AI into a coach rather than a ghostwriter. Habit 3. Stay the thinker. Attempt the problem first, then ask AI to critique your attempt, point out the first step where your reasoning goes wrong. Ask it to quiz you one question at a time, to give hints instead of answer, to explain the concept at several levels. Used this way, AI creates more practice, not less, and the learning stays yours. Habit 4. Protect your privacy. Before you paste, ask whether this is something you'd be comfortable sharing publicly. Keep sensitive personal research and institutional data out of tools whose handling you don't control. Habit 5. Match the tool to the task. Many AI fails are really tool mismatch failures. Use the language model for explanation, structure, and ideas, and switch to a calculator, a spreadsheet, a citation database, or an official source when you need exactness or current information. We will look more closely at grounding and source-based tools in the next unit. And habit 6. Use AI proportionally and stay accountable. Reach for the level of AI the task actually needs. Remember that you remain responsible for the final result, for its accuracy, its fairness, and its integrity. Good AI use doesn't remove you from the work, it makes you more deliberate. Let's recap. We saw that the pitfalls of LLMs fall into three families: those that come from how the model generates languages, hallucination, overconfidence, generic output, exact task failures, and hidden assumptions. Those that come from how we interact with it, psychophancy, over-reliance, and de-skilling. And those that come from the wider context of use, privacy, bias, academic integrity, and resource cost. We then turn each risk into a habit. Verify, invite critic, stay the thinker, protect your privacy, match the tool to the task, and use AI proportionally while staying accountable for the result. One of those habits, matching the tool to the task, points directly to our next topic. In the next topic, we'll move beyond the chat box and look at tools, sources, and workspaces, how to ground the LLM in trustworthy information so its answers are better grounded in the first place.